It's racist.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run, and if you want me
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that.
States took control and they had discriminatory practice laws.
Okay, but
the
that was
Supreme
a long time
Court.
ago.
What? How long ago? Tell me how long ago was that?
How long was experience?
Okay, but we're because you're not
more
a black woman.
No, I'm a New Yorker, and
But
that's
New
not
York
the
is
way it
not
is.
representative of the rest of
You're,
America.
hold on. What percentage of it does it represent the United States of America?
Why does it matter? So we gotta go by numbers?
Why is it so hard to acknowledge what she just said?
Why is it just?
We want the most qualified. We want the smartest. We want this. We want that. What you're really saying is, we want white dominance again.
Stupid people, they really don't understand.
What's going on, guys? So we got to talk about another CNN implosion because these folks have gone nuts. Like Abby Phillip has gone rogue. Okay, she used to be kind of quiet, timid Abby Phillip, but now she is a complete left-wing hack. Okay, her and this other girl, Allison, on the panel are complete Looney Tunes because they're going nuts. It's a critical race theory all over again. The radical left Democrats have managed to convince gullible black people that they're missing out on something by not having DEI. Same way they convinced blacks that critical race theory was somehow not having that be taught in schools was cutting out black history. I'm like, hey, I remember what it was like when I was in school. We still had black history. Black History Month is still a thing. MLK holiday is still a thing. None of that stuff has anything to do with DEI or critical race theory, but these fools, dummies, idiots, just don't seem to understand that and like to just cross-pollinate all of these separate individual things. Affirmative action, EEOC, DEI, black history. None of these things are the same. I can see some relation. I'm not retarded like some of these people, but they're not the same thing. And these folks, of course, are having meltdowns because they feel like black history and the ability of black people to succeed at all is being taken away, even though we're going towards a more meritocracy-based system. It is quite outrageous. Without further ado, let's get into it.
The issue in this country right now is we live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
let's go.
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me,
your perception is not reality, but let's keep going.
Black women in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want me
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about actually
let her finish.
right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table,
Fine
right?
by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because...
in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Yeah, look, so this lady's openly admitting that she worked under, I believe it was either President Obama or Joe Biden or both, and she's basically admitting that even though she's a black person, she was paid less. Now, I've heard this argument before, but here's the honest truth about this argument. If you're not getting paid what you feel like you should, you're not a good negotiator. I know people, I can tell you right now, like I work a day job. I'm getting paid a lot of money. I'm gonna put it that way. I'm not getting paid a small amount. And I don't know how much everybody else gets paid, but I know the range, and I know that I am closer to the top of the range. Some people, I'm sure, are closer to the bottom of the range. They might, when I get offers, I don't accept the first offer. I tell people like, well, I asked for X amount. If I don't get that, I'm not taking a job. And I mean it. If you just take, oh, it's such a good opportunity, I don't want to lose the opportunity, so I'm just take it. I mean, you got to have leverage. You got to have the skills to pay the bills. If you ain't got the skills, then you ain't going to get paid. It ain't nobody's fault if you ain't skilled, Allison. I don't know what to tell you just because you got degrees. Who told you that you was going to be making more money because of your degree? Like they was just going to start throwing money at you. Last I checked, some of these people getting paid millions of dollars. You think they're paying them millions? Like Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer getting paid millions because of their degrees? Foolishness, Allison. Foolishness.
Scott.
Look,
Go ahead, Scott.
Look,
You're my friend. I respect you tremendously. I think you're probably the smartest operative in the Democratic Party, and they should listen to you more. That's number one. Number two, you and I share a comparable background. We're both from the Midwest. We both come from middle-class families, lower middle-class families maybe. I actually think we share a lot of similarities in our journey. But I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often at every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic. And that's all anybody ever is asking for, is for people with talent and work ethic to make it. And that's what I see in you. That's how I see you.
But let me tell you something about my story and my family's
Here
story.
we go.
Is that we have faced discrimination. I have faced discrimination. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes.
Who doesn't face some levels of discrimination sometimes? You could be white and be dealing with all blacks. Like, I'm around a lot of black people, and I can tell you right now, a lot of black people openly admit to not treating the white people good, not wanting to hire them, saying these white folks, this, that, the third, like calling them racial slurs all the time. It's like a regular thing in the black community. Not that I do it. I actually openly rebuke this sort of stuff, but I see people do it all the time. So it just depends on where you're at and who you're dealing with, guys. It's not something that's like exclusive to the blacks. Like, oh my gosh, the black suffrage. And yes, I know the black history. Like, who the hell doesn't at this point?
To my counterparts, it is just the reality of the country we live in. And I'm not saying, I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
I don't agree, because
when 2025.
She's in a good position. What the hell are you talking about? You got the qualifications. You're in a good position. Look at the stupid look on her face. That's how I feel. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, come on.
I don't think with Aaron.
You can't deny her saying.
I don't feel like there's any point that we could get to where they're not gonna say, oh my gosh, it's so much harder. I had to work 10 times harder. Like, get a freaking grip. All of this crying. You don't see as many men out here just crying. That's one thing that a lot of women aren't able to do, especially in today's day and age. The black women are just a bunch of freaking crying. It's like, if you're gonna be tough, be tough. You can't be strong and just cry all the time too.
There is a mountain of evidence that suggests that you are wrong. Okay, let's just take Ashley.
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm jaded. Okay. I am the Attorney General is a black woman.
Okay,
the mayor's a black man. The head of the Senate is a black person.
Okay, New York is a small representation.
New York is not that small.
That sounds like a pretty strong representation to me.
Let me talk about
every judge I appear before is either a woman or a person of color.
Ashley just gave an anecdote, but the numbers also show black women are one of the most educated demographics in this country and one of the least paid. Why would that make any sense?
Why would that make any sense?
Because that's not what you need to be successful. Stop trying to put what you think is going to make you successful into, like, that automatically means that there's discrimination. Education has never been the only factor that determines your level of success. If you know that if something's not working, why would you keep going that direction? A lot of people are busy seeking the bag, not seeking education. There's more than one way to be successful. Just because you're good at taking tests and doing projects and doing stupid PowerPoint presentations does not mean that you are a good, skilled employee that is valuable in the labor force. That's not what that means. It means you're good at taking and passing tests and writing papers and all of that stupid stuff that they want you to do in school. A lot of those people who are professors are dumb as hell too. I went to college. I know those people were dumb. They were a bunch of radical left Democrats too. And that's all they cared about is stupid political stuff and social justice stuff. They didn't care about real education. Most of them didn't even have real world experience.
And don't talk to me about the judges you stand before. Talk to me about the theory.
Hold on.
Talk to me about the world in which we live in.
Let's look at the United States Supreme Court. How could you say we're not going to look at that from the top to the bottom? And I'm talking about the legal system.
New York is a more progressive. And we just got a black woman.
Hold up. Let me.
We just got a black woman on the
board. We got a black man from the 70s.
You brought up the Supreme Court.
Or the 60s.
One.
Did you know, Arthur, that there are
hold on. What percentage of it does it represent the United States of America?
Why does it matter?
Why
we
is
gotta
it
go
so
by
hard?
numbers?
Guys, one at a time.
No, but
Why
yes,
is it so
So
hard?
we gotta
for you
This
to
is
acknowledge what
chaos.
she just said?
We
Why is
only
it
have
so
30%
hard?
Why is it just
of
one?
justice.
Why is there only one Italian
No,
American?
but why is
Why?
it so hard for you to acknowledge what she just said about
didn't-
black
I
women
didn't-
being the most educated
I
and
did
the most
acknowledge it. I said
underpaid?
that's
And
not
you-
my experience.
Okay,
If that
but
was
we're
the case,
because
we
you're
would have
not a
more
black
black women on the
woman.
No, I'm a
But
New
New-
Yorker, and
but
that's
New
not
York
the
is
way
not
it is in New York.
representative of the rest
You're
of America.
correct.
That's
You
also
are
what
correct.
it's also the most diverse city in the country.
Well, that's exactly.
Like,
So of
why
course
wouldn't
there's
it
more
be? I think it's a
representation
little
in
more
women.
representative.
And Scott, I think if you really see you
You
said
can't take when somebody has an example that goes against your example and then just wipe it away. I hate it when people do that. Well, if you exclude this, no, don't exclude it. You got to keep everything. If somebody's making an example, you can't just get rid of their example because it's inconvenient to you making your point.
very beautiful. This is your friend. You guys share a lot of the same values. You guys think alike. You guys are literally friends off air. You text, you have good conversations. There is the yes and in that. There is something that says to me that you know what she's saying is true. You think she's smart. You know that she's smart. She's more educated than mostly everyone at this table. And so what she's saying isn't a lie. What she's saying is a real life experience. And so why is it so hard to understand why something like diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be a part of what we do in a system that never even acknowledged a group of people, never saw us as a human commodity, just literally never noticed who we were. And now here we are years later asking for some simple rights, some simple civilities. She's asking to be paid like you get paid. She's asking to be acknowledged like you get acknowledged. And she knows that that is not the case because she is a black woman.
She had a high-ranking position in the White House of the United States of America.
Dear friend,
she is one of the most celebrated political operatives in the country.
Do you know
how hard I had to work to get that?
Do you know how hard the son of a garbage man had to work at it? So I'm just telling you.
I'm not saying that, but
talent and work ethic are everything, and that's why I think you're here.
It's not true. It's just not true.
So
It's just
look,
not true.
The other thing is,
So she's saying that talent and work ethic don't override in 2025 race politics and gender politics. Now, I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the politics in America over like the last decade, but it seems to me like anytime they get any woman or any person of color who's even close to qualified, a lot of the time they pick them. We're not talking about in 1950 and 60 and 70. We're talking about 2025. You telling me that a qualified black person is ignored in 2025 or a qualified black woman is ignored and passed up for the white person? There is no evidence to suggest that. If you can't interview, if you can't negotiate, if you don't have any skills besides just, boom, you just throw your degrees on the table, like here, boom, here's my degrees. You throw your degrees on the table. You think everybody's going to care about your degrees? And no, it's never been that way. You stop putting what you think people need to care about and making that your unit of measure. Because if you know that that's not working, why would you keep seeing black women keep trying to do the same thing and never try anything different? Like, if you're trying something that doesn't work, you're doing something wrong.
The access to opportunity is, I know you don't want to think that that is true, but access to opportunity is what DEI is supposed to address. And not just when it comes to race, although
yeah, it's what it's supposed to address, but what does it really do? LGBTQ everything, that's what it does. It erases salesmen. Can't say salesman, you got to say salesperson. Can't say grandfathered in, you got to say legacy. Can't say white list or black list, got to say safe list and allow list. It's dumb.
This is important. But when it comes to women, when it comes to people with disabilities, when it comes to people from different socioeconomic brackets, from rural parts of the country.
I think that's the biggest issue. There's different socioeconomic brackets more than race and gender.
Now we're trying to say that everything is equal just because I say it is, even though all the evidence.
Who said everything is equal?
Well, that's literally
literally nobody said. Literally nobody said. I'm arguing that things are split, that sometimes it's going to be favored one direction versus the other. It just depends on the circumstance and who you're around, what company you're going for, what position you're going for. It's just going to depend. It's never going to be. What planet do these people live on where they think it's going to be 100% equal at some point in history? Or if that's the target, then you're living in a fantasy. It's not going to happen no matter what.
Already living in a meritocratic society is what Scott and his colleagues want to say, when that's actually factually not true.
Do you not think everything is equal?
But I think it's
I don't think
generally,
everything
I
is
think
equal.
it's
Of course not.
generally
then
true.
so actually,
But I think,
okay,
I think it'll seek its
Look
own
at this.
level.
Look at this situation. The women, for the most part, are talking over the men. Like,
I don't think the government should be telling us to seek its own
but
level.
you literally
hold on,
just said
DEI is not about the government. Y'all are talking to private companies
Yes.
and telling them you can't
do
operate
it. It's
about
the
both.
way you
I
want to
think, but
operate.
Arthur, you
It
literally
is
just
about
said, I don't think it will seek itself out, because you literally just said human nature. That's how we operate.
That's
so
right.
sometimes,
Yes,
which is why the
I
civil
think
rights
it's more
movement was
I
so
think it's more
important.
socioeconomic
And
than it is.
this is why, like, when they
racial.
talk about like canceling the Department of Education, why they talk about the federal government. The reason why the federal government was so important, particularly for Black people to seek justice in this country, is because it was the one bastion of hope that people had when states took control and they had discriminatory practice laws.
Okay, but
the
that was a long
Supreme
time
Court.
ago now.
What? How long ago? Tell me how long ago was that?
That was a long
How long-
time.
I was wondering when somebody's gonna bring this up. Every angle they come at is like, well, here's why this. Like, yes, we know why. We know why something existed at one point, how it came to be. That doesn't mean that we need it today. I'm starting to feel like them people who's like, look, at a certain point, you just need to get over it and move forward. We know what the hell happened, but how the hell are you ever gonna move forward? We got all these damn chips on your shoulder. You're weighed down.
We gotta go. We gotta go.
Please.
It was not that long ago.
I know.
It was,
It's
okay.
let
It was
him
not
talk.
that long ago.
Okay. It don't matter. It don't matter if it was yesterday. What do you mean? Like you gonna dwell on the past forever? I mean, I understand slavery was bad, civil rights was bad, Jim Crow was bad. Nobody's making that argument. My argument is that we're not dealing with the civil rights movement right now. We're not dealing with Jim Crow, and we're not in slavery. I mean, maybe some of these illegal migrants might be real close to it, which the Democrats still support, by the way. But beyond those people, as far as Black people in America and Black women, we're not dealing with any of those things. Now, is there potentially some issues in certain edge cases? You're always going to find some. I'm not saying that none exist, but to try to sit up here and act like it's this big prevalent thing, you got 3 Black chicks on the damn panel and 2 white dudes. Hold on, let me see. Let me go back. So you got, okay, 1 white woman, 2 white dudes, and 3 Black women. And these people are trying to argue how oppressed they are. This is the stupidest, most oxymoronic thing that I think I've ever seen. Like 3 accomplished Black women that feel like just because they had to work hard, like, yeah, just because you come from a culture where a lot of people don't work that hard, let's keep it a buck. A lot of people don't work hard. Like, I'm in the Black community too. And anytime you work like the least bit hard, people look at you like you crazy, like something wrong with you. Like, you trying to be like them white people. People look at you like you're a nutcase for working all the time. Especially if you're doing something that, you know, it's not like, you know, working at McDonald's, like taking an extra shift. If you're doing something that's beyond, like, out of the ordinary, then they look at you sideways. So, of course, if you are not coming from an environment where people are getting their law degree, becoming attorneys and becoming doctors, stuff like that, where you basically have to work all the freaking time, of course, a lot of people in the community are going to feel like, man, you work super duper hard. But when you're looking at winning culture and people that are coming from families that are extremely successful, where everybody's doing this all the time, you're not used to it. A lot of these people are so caught up in Black culture, they don't know nothing about any other culture. She's like, well, my experience, well, what do you know about actual white culture for successful white people? Like people like the Trump family who, like, see how this man doesn't even sleep. I don't even know how the hell he's even alive. He doesn't rest. And there's a lot of people who aren't Trump who don't rest. They constantly study, they're constantly working, they're constantly traveling. That is their life. Their life isn't a whole lot of fun, honestly. And I think a lot of people in the Black community don't get that because for the most part, I'm not saying every single person, but for the most part, a lot of people aren't out here making moves constantly, networking, traveling. As a matter of fact, you hear people in our community say things they're not going to do. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. They complain about everything. All they do is make excuses of what they're not going to do and how stuff's not going to work. And some people say, oh, I'm going to seek education because they don't know what the hell else to do. But that doesn't necessarily work either. It might work at like maybe the bachelor's or master's level. And, you know, it's going to take a lot of grit to even get that far. But that doesn't guarantee you that you're going to get some high level position and be paid a lot. You also got to know how to negotiate and have actual real life skills. Experience and skills win out everything. It beats everything at the end of the day. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you're extremely skilled, but I mean, you're a black woman, so I'm just not going to hire you. That is foolish. Maybe it happens sometimes, but I'm saying that it's rare that that is going to be the case if you are actually skilled. Qualifications is one thing. Skills is something else entirely. Okay, you can be qualified for something and people don't think that you have the skills to do that job for whatever reason. But that don't mean that it had anything to do with your race or your gender. That is extremely anecdotal. And for the record, Abby Phillip doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, because I looked up the statistics and black women are not the #1 most educated group in the country. They're more educated in general than black men, but they are not the #1 group. On average, both white men and women are more educated than the black community, both male and female, in its entirety. Like, they average around 50% or more people are educated in the black community, with black men and women is less than that. The statistic that they're talking about is people who enroll in school, because a lot of black women enroll in school, but they don't finish. In terms of actual graduates, that's what education is. They need to update this statistic and say graduates. Because when they just say education, you know what that means? That means they can say whatever the hell they want. Like, well, you enrolled in school, you're educated. No, that's false. That's classic Democrats gaslighting. I would love it if black women were the most educated group, but it's just not the reality, guys. That is actually a lie. And I don't operate off of feelings. I operate off of facts here, regardless of how it makes people feel. And F all that DEI stuff. It's not needed. Meritocracy works. If you're that skilled, people are going to hire you. It's really that simple. Those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
You want white dominance. Because if you're pointing to DEI, and that's usually pointed towards quote unquote unqualified minorities, because you're always using the word qualified, as if everybody that got a position through DEI is not qualified. We know what you're implying. We know what you're insinuating. And you got folks in the administration, and Pete Hegseth, oh my God, the nerve of him to just join into the fray and give his quote about making sure qualified people have these jobs. You're the defense secretary, whose only job prior to this was as a weekend host on Fox News.
You see, that's the real threat to democracy, stupid people. That's the threat. Our biggest threat to democracy is stupid people.